Eating disorders are one of the most deadly mental illnesses. However, they are most often trivialized by TV and media. What does a real eating disorder look like? How does it affect a real person? What do we really know about eating disorders past the symptoms and treatment? Today we'll meet Ione Martin, a University of Tennessee graduate, truck driver, and recovering bulimic. Listen to her experience with bulimia and learn what it really means to suffer from an eating disorder.
Hi there, I'm Ione Martin. I'm 25 years old, and when I was 15 years old, I was diagnosed with Bulimia Nervosa. Bulimia is basically characterized as a cycle of binging and purging.
The thing about eating disorders is that no two are the same. The size of a binge varies from person to person, as well as the type of purge, whether vomiting or otherwise. Therapists use something called the DSM, or Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, to diagnose mental illnesses, such as bulimia. There are certain characteristics which a person must fit in order to be diagnosed by a professional. According to the DSM, the criteria which one must meet to be diagnosed with bulimia is as follows. He or she must binge eat, defined as eating a large portion of food in a short period of time, but what constitutes a binge may differ from person to person. During the binge, he or she must experience a loss of control, feeling helpless or unable to suppress the urge of binging. After the binge, he or she has to make up for it. This can be done through purging, exercise, laxative, or others.
So my eating disorder specifically, sometimes I was told that it wasn't characterized as very standard bulimia because my binges often didn't look like binges. For me, it could just be a regular snack, and I'd want to purge. My purging behavior, some people use laxatives, exercise, throwing up. I did throw up when I would purge, and it was hard. My binges were typically smaller, but I would still purge. It eventually got to the point that I was purging almost everything I ate, so it got really hard for my body to keep the food down. So it was physically uncomfortable. During my sophomore year and definitely into junior year, I just remembered having a really hard time in school. I'd see my grades dropping. I'd see me pulling away from my friends or doing things that just weren't characteristic of myself. I'd become more and more consumed with the eating disorder and those behaviors and protecting those behaviors, even though I was in counseling seeking help. A lot of things contributed to my eating disorder. School was stressful, the comparisons. I'd gone from being homeschooled to entering public school, which is just a really huge adjustment. We had never had a scale in our house the entire time we grew up. And then I think I was maybe in 8th grade when our grandparents bought us a Wii Fit and had a scale on it, and you could watch your little me character get bigger and smaller if you gained or lost weight. And I remember obsessing over it and weighing myself with less clothes on to try to make my Wii just a little bit smaller.
While there is no typical bulimic, there are certain characteristics that many fall into. The most common person to suffer from this is a white woman in a higher socioeconomic class. This can be attributed to cultural factors such as standards of beauty and media influence. Often those affected feel a sense of low self-worth, the need to be perfect, falling short of expectations, and a concern with others' perspectives. Men only make up 10 to 20% of eating disorders, which can be inferred to be correlated to gender roles and visual expectations of women.
My relationship with my body, it was definitely very strained. I'd say, starting probably in 8th grade, I feel like I didn't have an accurate perception of what like my body looked like. When I look back at pictures now of what I looked like in 8th, 9th, even 10th and 11th grade, I'm like, I don't remember myself looking like that. I thought I was much, much bigger. We'd do this thing where the therapist would have us like draw ourselves on a large sheet of paper and how large we thought we were, like what did we think our body shape was. Stand against it and they'd trace us to show us sort of the difference between, what we thought versus like the reality, and then they'd ask us, like what we felt like occupied all that extra space, where were we getting that, like what kind of like emotions and feelings and insecurities were occupying that. I think when I started really noticing something was up, I knew right away, I knew what an eating disorder was. It's hard to explain how I knew what I was doing, but it wasn't something that I could stop necessarily. I just kept doing it anyway. It was addicting in a way.
Eating disorders are addictions. Binge eating alters the regulation of dopamine, a key chemical in reward-motivated behavior, in one's mind, encouraging the act and enforcing the cycle of binging and purging. This is similar to the way drug users become dependent on different substances.
I started getting really concerned when I started getting physical symptoms. I would feel lightheaded every time I stood up, or my hair would fall out a lot. You could just see it in my skin looking like paler and just not well. The acid reflux was terrible. Tooth erosion, and just an inability to concentrate. So it was rough. I don't think I realized how weak and how hard of a time I was having functioning until I started taking care of myself and getting healthy again.
In addition to the symptoms and conditions Ione noted, bulimia can also have other health effects, such as damage to the vocal cords, swollen salivary glands, infertility, decrease in bone density, and an infected or torn esophagus. Also, it is important to note that eating disorders are one of the most deadly mental illnesses.
The process of getting help was long. It started, almost immediately as soon as I told my mom when I was 15. She put me in therapy, and it took about a year and a half, 2 years after that before that therapist decided that it was time to progress me to an inpatient treatment program when she I guess at that point felt like I wasn't getting any better just through therapy, and I was gradually getting worse, especially with the physical side effects that I had talked about. From that point, she referred us to Shepherd Pratt Center for Eating Disorders in Towson, Maryland. Life inside of an inpatient eating disorder facility is very strict. Basically, if you're in an inpatient eating disorder facility, you have every single eating disorder. It doesn't matter if you're bulimic or anorexic, you're being treated as if you have all of them. So no one was allowed to exercise. We all had to eat all of our food. We had to, when we'd go to the bathroom, we weren't allowed to go to the bathroom until at least an hour after we'd eaten. And that was interesting. A lot of different sort of physical and mental side effects did happen. Depression, anxiety. As far as physical goes, because bulimia, it dehydrates you. You're losing a lot of fluids, and just messing with your whole digestive system. So I got severely constipated. I went to the emergency room in Baltimore for back pain while I was in partial hospitalization, but yeah, when they came back in with those x-ray results, they were like, this is your bowel. This is how clogged it is, and told me that, like, if not fixed immediately. Like I could have died from it. You know, it was a life-threatening medical event. Now that I can better manage my eating disorder, I feel a lot happier. I feel like I can do things I enjoy. I have so much more energy. Like, you don't realize while you're in it, but you just have no energy when you're, you know, throwing up multiple times a day. I just enjoy activities more. I enjoy my friends more. It's nice to not feel so much like I'm hiding something. I don't carry a lot of shame anymore. I think back in high school I had a lot of shame, and even into college, but now I'm okay to openly say, like, yeah, I struggled with an eating disorder, but like, I'm proud of myself because I know that I took the steps to get better, and it was a lot of hard work, and it's hard work every day, but that's okay, you know. It's nice to look at my body and say, hey, I look good in that outfit. I'm killing it. Even though I always know it might come back, it's a huge relief to know that I'm mostly as close to recovered as I can imagine getting, at least.
I go for a drive, I like to pull off to the side of the road, turn out the lights, get out and look up at the sky. And I do this to remind me that I'm really, really tiny in the grand scheme of things, and sometimes this terrifies me. It's only really scary cause it makes me feel serene in a way I never thought I'd be, because I